So I have tried Dancing Dervish build before, but it was really kind of bad. But it got a slight buff in Abyss League, and now it can maintain Rampage against bosses. So I wanted to make a build around this weapon, and rely only on this weapon for dealing damage. And to my surprise, it is really fun. It is a bit wild minion, and there is no way to control it. Well, maybe besides convocation. But it's really fun to just run next to your weapon and see all the enemies just drop dead. And this is sort of a meme build. This is a juggernaut, not Necromancer, but I think you could also do it with Necromancer and use Flesh Offering, maybe even Spirit Offering. And I'll explain why juggernaut, but I just want to give more information about the stats and viability of this build. So, Dancing Dervish is a two-handed weapon that summons manifested Dancing Dervish when you trigger a Rampage. The Rampage itself gives a bunch of other stats to player like movement speed, attack and damage and rarity, and I'm not sure if it actually affects the minions. Now the manifested Dancing Dervish minion disables your both hand weapon slots, even if you weapon swap. So forget about all kind of shenanigans with weapon swapping for shield and necromantic aegis. Next, this minion does sort of like a cyclone attack, and it just uses it all the time. The base damage is this weapon damage, so it doesn't get stronger with levels, which is the main problem. Support gems inside this weapon will affect this minion, and it doesn't have to be linked. It only has to be 6 socket. It is affected by all usual melee support gems and minion support gems. The best part, it is immortal. It has life pool, but it cannot be damaged at all. So in theory, you should be able to do any boss with this weapon, as long as you have Rampage and as long as you can survive yourself. So I wanted a character that would be tanky and would just be able to survive without any minion protection. And also I picked Juggernaut because I am using a trick to extend the Rampage duration. The only way to extend Rampage duration is to use Temporal Chain on you. And the only way to do that reliably is to use the meme gloves, Shackles of the Wretched, which were designed by the memester himself, Gouda. So curses in these gloves are reflected back to you. And obviously I am using Temporal Chains inside these gloves. And every time I curse enemies, I curse myself, extending Rampage duration. Juggernaut Ascendancy class has a very special node, which is called Unstoppable. Basically it negates Temporal Chain effect on you, except for one part. Other effects on cursed enemies expire 40% slower. Well, because it only has 40% reduced effect of curse against players, it is only 24%. So in reality, other effects on you expire 24% slower. But it can be increased by curse effectiveness from the passive skill tree. And I have 30% increased effect with curses. So basically I have 31% increased duration on Rampage. By default, you need to get killed within 5 seconds to maintain a Rampage. But with this setup, it is extended to 6.55 seconds. And because this is Juggernaut, I can move very fast. But that is often not enough to get the next enemy pack or just to maintain the Rampage against certain bosses. Like for example Kitava fight that has phases, or Ziri that also has phases. So for that I am using 2 worm flasks. I pop the flask, drop worms, curse those worms with Temp Chains to curse myself and extend Rampage duration, then the minion kills those worms and resets the Rampage. I did try normal Aziri and I think you should be able to do it without too much problems. But if you mess up and let the Rampage expire, you are basically screwed, because you need 20 kills to start the Rampage. Each worm flask can be used 2 times, so that is 4 kills per flask. That means you need 5 flasks to get the Rampage, unless you mess with flask charges. Less charge used and then gain charges when you kill those worms, so maybe you could have like 4 flasks and get the Rampage, but I'm not sure. Still, that means you would be sacrificing some other flasks like Granite Flask or Basalt Flask or Quicksilver. Now let's talk about the damage and viability for endgame. In most of the clips that you are seeing, I had about 40,000 DPS on this Dancing Dervish. However, I completely forgot about minion accuracy, and this Dancing Dervish has terrible accuracy. So in fact, additional accuracy support gem gives the most damage of all support gems for this Dancing Dervish. And I was only using Hatred Aura. With some tweaking in path of building, it should be able to reach over 100,000 DPS against standard bosses. And I'm not sure if Rampage affects minions. If it does, then the damage would be even higher. Also, because of new Abyssal Jewels, you can scale the damage pretty well. You just need a lot of flat added physical or just elemental damage to minion attacks. Also on those abyssal jewels I am using minions have chance to blind, taunt, hinder, and also I have maim. So all the enemies are basically always slow, blind, and inaccurate, and also often trying to hit immortal minion. So I think this is sort of red tier maps viable, but don't expect to really do Shaper's Guardians with this. It just doesn't have enough damage. In theory you could, if you could just survive and let the minion hit well for long enough. The biggest problems of this build are your resistances. I even had to take multiple resistance nodes on the passive skill tree. It can be very expensive if you want to min-max and get all the best abyssal jewels that add flat damage to minions. Also your life pool isn't that great, it's only a bit over 5000. But you can easily get over 11,000 armor, which I have. But then random big skeletons clubs you on the head for over 4000 damage, and you feel like that armor is just a waste. I do generate endurance charges, but it's not very reliable. Also, managing flasks and maintaining Rampage is so annoying to me. It's kind of bad for streaming because I want to read the chat and interact with people, and I just keep missing my Rampage duration, and I just let the Rampage expire accidentally. And like I said, you can't really control this minion. It just goes where it pleases. But I think it's really fun. Well, but it's just not for me, I guess. This is actually too fast and too intense build. And lastly, let's talk about skill gems, support gems, passive skill tree, and items. So, but before that, I just want to say that this looks really cool. This imp armor set and abyssal imp weapon effect on this weapon looks like a true demon, and I love it. Anyway, so and also wings from challenges. So support gems I'm using on my Dancing Dervish. Damage on full life, it is, like I said, immortal, so it is always on full life. It never loses life. So this gives a huge damage multiplier. Then minion damage support gem, melee physical damage, minion speed, I'm gonna talk about that, maim, and faster attacks. Now, like I said, I forgot about additional accuracy support gem, which gives the most damage. So since I corrupted it, I can no longer recolor it, but I would most likely change minion speed with additional accuracy. It does give a lot of minion speed, but if you can get rings and amulet with essence crafted, essence of fear, to get minions more movement speed, then it should be fine. But if you can't, I guess you could also replace faster attacks. If you want the most damage, then obviously minion speed gives the least damage, so replacing it with additional accuracy is probably the best. Next, I am using only hatred aura at the moment. Well, clarity as well. So my hatred is linked with generosity, and it is better than haste. The thing is, the minion moves so far away from me, it usually loses the aura. And for the most part, hatred is only, well, any aura is mostly useful against single target, when you are standing close to your minion and well, close enough. Also at the start I was using the Baron helmet, since I do have pretty decent strength, but after the nerf, Baron helmet is just, I don't know, it just lost all its value, I think, because Bone helmet, and well, I got this perfect roll. Minions deal 40% increased damage. This is not the same as increased minion damage. This is the same as more damage multiplier. So it actually gives a lot of damage. And it is better than Baron helmet. And you can roll life and resistances. So, but it would be nice to get Elder Bone helmet, but Elder Bone helmet blank costs like 6 exalts only for crafting, without any stats. So whew, that's insane. But if you can get it, then that would be a big boost. Anyway, next I am using Raging Spirits to start the initial killing spree, and it actually do pretty lot damage. My SRS is linked to melee splash, then minion damage, faster attacks, and melee physical damage. But if you are using 2 auras and you want to reserve all of your mana, then you could replace melee physical with blood magic support gem. So I'm gonna talk about that as well. Next, I do have multiple cast when damage taken setups. So in my gloves, as I said, I am using Temporal Chains. I have cast when damage taken with Temporal Chains to automatically curse enemies, and I also have Temp Chains manual cast. But like I said, if you're using two auras and reserve all of your mana, then you can just use Blood Magic Support Gem. Also, I tried Blasphemy with Temp Chains in these gloves does not reflect curse on you, so that's kind of sad. I was expecting to run Blasphemy and just run next to enemies and get cursed as well, but it doesn't work like that. My armor, I bought it quite cheaply for a couple of chaoses. I wanted as much armor because I am Juggernaut, and Juggernaut gets double armor from body armor. Also, I am using Darkness Enthroned Stygian unique belt. And the reason is because it gives a lot of minion damage and with 50% effectiveness. So I have two abyssal jewels, minion flat cold physical damage. Also minions have chance to blind, hinder, and there was another one with and this one with taunt. The problem is that you don't really have a lot of places where you can get resistances, especially if you want to get essence crafted rings and amulet. It's sort of hard to craft. Well, I only crafted this one. I tried to craft other ring and amulet, but I just couldn't get anything good, and it is pretty expensive to get minion speed and good rolls, so you're gonna need a lot of resistances, life, and then minion movement speed. If you cannot get those, then I would probably still use minion speed and just use additional accuracy instead of one of the other gems. Maybe instead of maim or faster attacks. Boots, actually I got these boots. I need a lot of dexterity, and I dropped dexterity from my passive skill tree so I could focus on other things. And these boots give a lot of dexterity, of course life, resistance, movement speed. So like I said, rings and amulet, nothing too special. Also using clarity because I do have mana issues, especially if I want to, and especially when you get a lot of rampage, you get onslaught, you get increased movement speed, cast speed, attack speed, so you basically cast much faster and you always run out of mana very easily. Right, so my next cast and damage taken setup is just some extra cast and damage taken with molten shell. I was using Immortal Call, but turns out Immortal Call is not really good for this because I do generate endurance charges, and if I lose endurance charges, I lose physical damage mitigation, like percentage based. Also I lose some resistances, and I sort of do need resistances because if I get cursed with one of the elemental weakness or flammability or conductivity, then I go below my cap, and that's really bad. Also I'm using two warm flasks because I need them, and then basalt flask for more armor, freeze immunity. Also Pantheon Power, this does not recover a hybrid flask. This Pantheon Power only recovers light flasks, so it does not work for that. Right, let's go to passive skill tree. Want to keep it short. Short is failed, okay. So the Juggernaut. First I took actually this because until level 59 you don't really need this one, and you don't start using these gloves until 59 once you equip this weapon. And until then I was using Sunder until something like level 40 or something. Then I equipped the Baron helmet and used the Assassin falling setup inside Baron helmet, and then started using minions instead of Sunder. Starting with minion skill is not a good idea because Marauder doesn't get any minion damage nodes, and you really need minion damage nodes. So basically at level 32 you start using Baron helmet with SRS, minion damage, attack speed, and melee splash. So Juggernaut, a lot of life, some armor. I did go through here at first, but I decided to get more armor, some regen also. Needed to get jewel socket. I was planning to get another endurance charges, but in the end I don't really maintain my endurance charges that well, so then go up, grab another jewel socket. I'm grabbing a lot of jewel sockets. So basically I grabbed all the minion damage and minion attack speed nodes. I did not take any minion life, well, besides couple. So yeah, it was nothing too special. I just tried to grab a lot of jewel sockets and stack flat minion physical damage and elemental damage Also, like I said, I need resistances because I grabbed this one, I even grabbed this one, elemental resistance, I even had this one. I would also get these nodes for regen because you do need also a bit more life mana. Also this jewel socket, you could probably grab this regen or maybe more mana. I don't know, maybe mana, no, maybe better regen and then that jewel socket. Right, on Uber Lab you could also get this one, but it's really not very easy to maintain endurance charges unless you are using enduring cry. Also sockets may be a bit hard to manage, but especially if you want to use two auras, so I would use hatred and actually wrath. Wrath gives a bit more damage than anger. Couple more items that I need to mention. You could instead go with Necromancer, and instead of this you could use Calm's Roots Boot, which sort of works the same, but you would lose a lot of movement speed because those boots have no movement speed. Flesh Offering would affect you, would give you movement speed, but you would not be able to counter the second part of Temp Chains effect. But it would be even harder to manage because you would have to keep an eye on Flesh Offering, your flasks, your Rampage, so it's just a mess. And yeah. Also another item, Vis Mortis. Vis Mortis armor would give you Unholy Might on kill for your minions, but that armor itself doesn't give anything good to you. So, but if you're playing Necromancer, maybe even a hybrid between life and ES, then this Mortis could be pretty good, and it would give some damage to your minions, but it wouldn't make a big difference. And I think that's about all. If I missed something or you got any questions, you can just ask it in the comments. Also in video description you'll find all the links to this build guide, path for building import code, and just basically a written info about this build. And if you like what I do and would like your name to appear at the end of my videos, you can support me on Patreon. I'm still trying to figure out a way to integrate it with my streams, so if you got any suggestions, let me know. Thank you for watching and see you next time.